Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking on a truly monumental task. Literally. We're going to capture the absolute essentials of this book on the ancient Egyptian empire, a civilization that managed to endure for an incredible 3,000 years. And we're going to do it in 8 minutes or less. So let's jump right into this fast-paced and fascinating journey through history. Okay. Let's dive right into this. Very few civilizations have sparked as much pure intrigue as ancient Egypt. Think back to 1922, when archaeologist Howard Carter unveiled the intact tomb of King Tutankhamun. It literally sent shockwaves around the globe. It was one of those rare discoveries that instantly captured the imagination of people from all walks of life. As this quote brilliantly puts it, Egyptomania gripped the world. The rituals and beliefs of a highly advanced society were once again exposed. But here's the thing. This wasn't just some passing 1920s fad. It revealed a profound, ongoing, modern fascination with a deeply complex society. We're not just captivated by all the shiny gold. We're hooked on the people, the mind-boggling engineering, and the enduring mysteries of the desert. To make our learning super efficient today, we've logically structured this massive 3 millennia topic into 5 digestible pillars. First, the enduring empire. Second, power of the pharaohs. Third, life along the Nile. Fourth, religion, magic, and death. And finally, the Egyptian legacy. Section 1. The enduring empire, a civilization of monumental scale. Now, what's really interesting here is that long before the Greeks conquered or the Romans annexed them, the ancient Egyptians rose and fell entirely on their own terms. And their endurance was absolutely staggering. We're talking 3,000 years. To put that sheer scale into perspective, you and I are actually closer in time to Cleopatra right now than she was to the building of the Great Pyramids. Crazy, right? So across that massive 3,000-year stretch, the macro timeline is largely defined by 3 distinct golden eras. You've got the Old Kingdom, which was the legendary age of those monumental pyramids, the Middle Kingdom, a crucial time of unification, and then the New Kingdom, which is when the realm aggressively expanded its borders and their culture just soared to its absolute peak. Which brings us to Section 2, Power of the Pharaohs, gods walking the earth. Now, none of those golden kingdoms would have been possible without the extraordinary rulers at the top. Over the course of this timeline, more than 170 men and women wielded absolute control over the landscape. And we have to remember, they weren't just politicians. To the everyday people, pharaohs were regarded as literal gods walking the earth. They led a sprawling empire that stretched all the way from the life-giving Nile out to the Euphrates River. Moving on to Section 3, Life along the Nile, Order out of Chaos. Let's shift from that sweeping macro view of the pharaohs down to the granular micro level of everyday life on the riverbanks. If you really want to understand the ordinary Egyptian mindset, you have to understand Ma'at. Embodied by a goddess, Ma'at represents the profound concept of harmony and order needed to negate chaos. Their entire civilization, from the god-king down to the lowest farmer, was built solely on maintaining this delicate cosmic balance. And that highly ordered life, it revolved entirely around the Nile. It wasn't just a river to them, it was the absolute backbone of their existence. You'd see small canoes navigating daily tasks, massive sailboats handling heavy trade, and those rich, fertile mudbanks giving rise to incredibly advanced farming. The Nile's waters dictated exactly where and how this society communicated and survived. But within this highly ordered society, exactly where you stood as an individual was determined by 5 very strict elements. We're talking kinship, your location, gender, age, and social class. Those 5 rigid pillars basically dictated your entire trajectory in life. And this structure built a really stark dichotomy. On one side, you had the haves, the educated scribes and bureaucrats. Boys from privileged backgrounds were taught to be scribes, learning complex subjects like algebra. But on the other side were the have-nots. This massive bureaucracy directed a country where the vast majority of inhabitants were simply peasant farmers, working the land day in and day out to sustain the empire. Section 4. Religion, Magic, and Death. The obsession with immortality. Okay, so in ancient Egypt, there was practically no clear line where science ended and magic began. And their devotion was just staggering. Look at this number. They worshipped over 1,400 gods and goddesses in this sprawling polytheistic pantheon. From the mighty sun god Ra to everyday household deities, these beliefs guided every single part of their existence. And this brilliantly illustrates the vast spectrum of their devotion. On one hand, you have these colossal, imposing stone monuments built to worship pharaohs as literal gods. But on the other hand, you have this everyday reference for sacred animals and pets. Whether it was a mummified cat or a scarab beetle, they firmly believed that keeping these gods happy was absolutely critical to their own spiritual survival. Of course, that spiritual survival extended way beyond the grave. Their intense and, frankly, pretty grisly death rituals resulted in meticulously preserved mummies. Mummification wasn't just random. It was a precise, highly calculated science designed purely to ensure the physical body's safe passage into immortality. But hey, don't let the magic and the mummies fool you into thinking they were primitive. Not at all. Alongside their deep superstitions, the ancient Egyptians were incredibly advanced trailblazers. They were effectively the world's first true doctors. We've discovered ancient medical texts and treatments that prove they were miles ahead of other civilizations when it came to actually understanding the human body. Section 5. The Egyptian Legacy, What They Did for Us. Bringing it all back to the present, you might be surprised by how much this ancient world permanently shaped our modern one. I mean, we literally owe them for the basic calendar structure we still use today. They invented door locks. They created papyrus, a really early form of paper, thousands of years before anyone else. They even pioneered cosmetics, the game of bowling, and, get this, early forms of breath mints. They just brilliantly combined practical everyday function with beautiful form. And then there's their phenomenal writing. This intricate system of hieroglyphics carved into stone was this fascinating mix of sacred decree and ordinary expression. But remarkably, this entire language was completely locked away and unreadable to the modern world until 19th century scholars finally deciphered it using the legendary Rosetta Stone. It literally opened a direct, visible window into their minds. Historian J.M. Roberts summarizes their monumental impact perfectly. Ancient Egypt has always been our greatest visible inheritance from antiquity. And it's so true. We don't just read about them in textbooks. We look at their surviving architecture, their texts, and their vibrant culture, and we feel this really profound, enduring connection to a shared human past. So what does this all mean? Well, it leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to ponder at the end of our rapid journey. Did humanity truly leave ancient Egypt behind in the sands of time? Or, with their calendars, their mathematics, and their architecture, do we actually walk in their shadows every single day? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible civilization with me. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to In 8 Minutes and never miss what matters.